Have you ever wondered if there was a better way to keep your students and families in the loop without overwhelming them with emails? Well, look no further because today we're exploring a solution to help streamline your communication. Welcome back to the Educate community. If it's your first time here, I'm Rebecca Simons, and this is the channel where we discuss all things EdTech. Today, we're going to be designing a class app in Canva. And while it's not actually a phone app, it mimics the function of one, and it's a great way to facilitate communication with your students and their families. From my experience as both an educator and a parent, I have learned a tremendous amount about what good communication with families can look like. One of the common options is a daily email. One thing I find incredibly challenging about being on the receiving end of this type of communication is that important information seems to get lost in the sheer volume. Either the information is so repetitive that I glance over new information, or I have to hold on to multiple emails so I don't lose information that was mentioned once. This is why I have become a big proponent of having a single place where families can go to find information. I'm not saying don't email your families. Emails are still an incredibly important form of communication. But I believe having a central location for families to refer back to is important as well. There are so many ways you can communicate this type of information. You could go with a class website, a digital flipbook, a digital hub, or a class app. It's about finding the choice that's going to work best for you. So let's go ahead and learn how to create a class app in Canva. But before we start building, I would love it if you could please take a second to give this video a like, hit subscribe, and share with one of your teacher friends. Your engagement is what helps us to reach more educators. Anytime you're planning on creating a digital product, it's a good idea just to start with some good old-fashioned planning. I've included a class app planning sheet for you that mimics the thinking I go through anytime I'm starting a digital project. My first step is to start considering who my audience is going to be. In a school, you're probably going to have three primary options: families, students, or yourself. Understanding who your audience is will help you tailor the content to meet their needs. This type of thinking should be recorded under your purpose or why for the app. For my example today, I'm going to select the audience as parents and guardians, and I'm going to put my purpose as facilitating communication and making information easier to find. Then you're going to want to decide on a theme for your app. You might want to use your school colors and mascot, but you could also consider themes like outer space, nature, etc. For our demo today, I'm going to be doing a bright rainbow theme. Next, think about the colors and fonts you're going to want to use. Make sure that your color choices are accessible and not overwhelming. You don't want to go too bright or too light. You can check the accessibility of your color choices through a tool like Adobe's Contrast Checker. Simply type in the hex code for your text color and background color, and it will let you know at the bottom if it passes the color contrast check. For my project today, I've decided that I'm going to stick with a black and white with color accents from the rainbow palette. Next, let's talk about fonts. I would highly encourage you to stick with fonts that are easy to read and not overly decorative. Now, I did break this rule in the title of my class app that I made as a sample, but you'll notice that I tried really hard to keep my use of scripty fonts to a minimum. If you're interested in learning more about formatting your content for digital accessibility, I've included a link to a one-pager I created on this topic. You should have received a link to all the course resources in your registration email. For our demonstration today, I chose to go with the font TT Blue Screens and BioRhyme for the title. And for the body text, I chose to use Canva Sans. After that, you're going to want to start thinking about the type of content you're going to include in your app. Each topic is going to become an app icon on the home screen. For example, if I wanted to include my contact information, I would type contact information under the topic column. Then under the information resource column, I'm going to list out all the information I want to appear on the contact slide. In your course resources, I've included some brainstorming ideas for topics as well as associated resources you might include with that topic. Finally, I've included an example planning sheet that I've filled out so you can see what a completed one might look like. Feel free to use it as a guide to help you get started. Now that our planning's out of the way, let's head over into Canva and start designing. On the left-hand side of my screen, I'm going to have the finished product we're working towards creating. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to walk you through all the skills and steps you'll need to create a similar product. Begin by typing canva.com into the URL bar, then click on the purple Create a Design button. Select Custom Size, then type in 1080 by 1920 and select Mobile First Presentation. Since this is a class app, we're designing it so the size looks right when we open it on a phone. We've already done our brainstorming, so we have some ideas about what we want the theme to look like. In my case, I'm going to be doing a rainbow theme. I'm going to begin by setting my home screen wallpaper or my background. On the left-hand side of my screen, I've clicked on Elements. Then I'm going to type in a keyword that relates to the theme I'm interested in for my app. For example, I'm going to type in the word bright. For a background, your best results are typically going to be found under Photos. Once you find an image you like, click and drag it onto your canvas. When you see the image enlarged like mine is on the screen, simply let go. This will set the image as the slide's background. By double-clicking on the image, you can click and drag to adjust which part of the image is going to be visible on the canvas. Since we're going to have content on top of our wallpaper, you may want to turn down the transparency or the vibrancy of your image to make your icons stand out a bit more. For example, on my Harry Potter themed app, to make sure that my icons were prominent, I turned down the transparency of the background image to 60%. To adjust the transparency of any image, simply click to select, click the transparency icon, then adjust the slider until you're happy with how it looks. Next, we're going to start blocking off where the title and app icons will go. Click on Elements in the side menu. Then under Shapes, select which shape you want to use. For this project, I chose to use the rounded square. I'm going to drag it to the top to create a space for my title. You could easily put your title straight on the background, but I like to put it inside a shape so that it's easier to read and stands out. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect right now. We're simply trying to block off some spaces to get a rough layout. Next, we're going to move into creating shapes for the app icons. This is where planning ahead really pays off because you need to know exactly how many icons to create. To create an app icon, click to add a shape to your canvas. I'm going to quickly change the color to black. Then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click one of the corner handles to resize the square. I chose to make mine 260 pixels by 260 pixels. Once you've created your first icon, you can use the formatting menu to adjust the background color and add a border. The border icon is going to allow you to adjust the weight or the thickness of your border. The corner rounding icon is going to allow you to adjust how rounded the corners are. And once the border has been enabled, you can also change its color by clicking on this icon to the left of the border style icon. Canva has a really cool feature that if you use a photo, it will go through and automatically identify colors that appear. So I'm going to select this purple that Canva identified as my border color. For this next part, I'm going to remove my background so it's a little easier for you to see what I'm talking about. I'm going to begin by moving my first icon over to the edge of my canvas until I see a pink border line appear. This is just an easy way to align elements. I'm going to select my app icon, then press Control D or Command D on a Mac to duplicate it. Then I'm going to click and drag it over to the other side of the canvas. Again, you can see that pink border that I'm aligning the edge of my icon with, and I also have 3 dotted lines showing me that the icons are perfectly aligned with each other. While I still have this icon selected, I'm going to press Control D again, then click and drag to center it in between my first 2 icons. Now that I have an entire row complete, I'm going to click and drag to select all 3, press Control D to duplicate, then drag down until I see the crosshairs appear on my very center icon. I'm going to press Control D one more time, then click and drag until I see numbers showing me that the spacing is exactly the same between all of my icons. When you're in present mode on a slide deck, especially on a phone, if you get too close to the bottom, the controls like to pop up. So I try not to put any information in this space. To remind myself that this space is off limits, I like to put a rectangle at the bottom. You may have to play around a little bit to get the sizing just right. I'm going to try this for now and change the color to black so it matches the theme of my app. Now we're going to start adding our text and icons. Honestly, I really struggle with font pairings, but there are all sorts of amazing resources out there to help you with this. I put several resources on the planning guide under the font section, but I'm also a fan of a quick Google search for Canva font pairings. Another resource I utilize is looking through the font combinations under the text menu. You can always change the size and the color, so don't let that throw you. For example, I like the font combination that says Join Now, so I'm simply going to click to add it to my canvas. The first thing I'm going to do is ungroup my text so that I can deal with each text box separately. I'm going to begin by dragging the white text up into the title space and change it to reflect my name. Next, I'm going to click on the side handle and drag to extend the text box so everything is on one line. Obviously, the font is currently way too big, so I'm going to click on the corner handle and drag to make the text smaller so that it will fit in my title box. Next, I'm going to move the word join up into the title box and change it to say class app. Again, I'm going to extend the text box so it's all on one line. Then click and drag from the corner to make the text smaller. Before I start fine-tuning the sizing, I want to make sure that everything's center aligned. I'm going to click and drag to select both text boxes and the title box. Then I'm going to right-click and hover over Align Elements. and look at my center vertical alignment. From here, I can click and drag to adjust the spacing and use the formatting menu to fine-tune the font size. I actually want to make a fairly minute adjustment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Shift key, select both text boxes, then use the arrow key on my keyboard to incrementally move my text. From here, I could change my font colors by clicking on the text, selecting text color, and choosing a new color from the pop-up menu. I could also add a text effect to help my title stand out more. For example, I might choose an option like splice and move my offset to 0. Next, I'm going to start adding names for each of my app icons. Under the text menu, start by clicking the purple Add a Text Box button. Next, I'm going to click on Font Style and select the font I want to use. I'm going to do a quick search for Poppins. Then I can click on this drop-down arrow next to the font name to see all of the different font styles that are offered. I'm going to be using extra bold for this project. Next, I'm going to click on the uppercase icon so that everything I type will appear in all caps. For my sample, I set my text size to 25, but you may need to play around with what size will work best for the font you've chosen and how long your titles are. Let's walk through setting up my first app title. I'm going to call it Contact Info. And in my model, I decided to place it in 2 lines by simply hitting return after contact. At this point, you could think about changing your font color, but I'm going to keep mine white because I feel like it shows up really well against the black app buttons. Then I'm going to click on the line spacing icon and change the spacing to 1.05. This setting allows you to control how much space is in between your lines of text. Next, I'm going to make sure that my text box is center aligned. I can do this by right-clicking, or I can simply click and drag and look for this nice dotted line, which is showing me that my text is center aligned on my shape. Just like we did with the shapes earlier, I'm going to press Control D on my keyboard to duplicate the text. This means that the color, the spacing, everything is already set. All I have to do is change what it says. My next icon is news, so I'm going to go ahead and make that change. Since this title is on 1 line instead of 2, when I move it into place, I'm going to be looking for several grid lines. Now, notice I now have a dotted line between contact and info. This is showing me that news is centered on the text box. I also have a grid line appearing down the middle, which shows me it's center aligned on the shape. Now I'm going to quickly repeat this process for my remaining app icons. All right, now that I have all my text added, it's time to start adding visuals. I'm going to start by clicking on the Elements menu and typing in keywords plus the word icon into the search bar. For example, for contact info, I might type in contact icon. The best location to look for icons is going to be under graphics. Simply click graphics or see all. I want to make all my icons white, so I'm looking for a fairly simplistic icon. Once you find one, simply click to add it to your canvas. Then in the pop-up menu, you can click on color to change the color. From here, I'm going to click and drag from the corner handle to resize the graphic so that it fits in my square. You'll repeat this process for your remaining apps. You might have to get a little creative sometimes in what you search to get the kind of icon you want. For example, to find the bullhorn for news, I searched announcement icon. Once you have all your apps finished, the next step is to search for a home icon. Now, Technically, you don't have to put this on the homepage, but I like to have it there simply for aesthetics. I'm going to place mine right above the black bar at the bottom of my canvas. Next, we're going to add pages. There should be one page for every app icon. Because I have 9 apps, I want to add 9 additional pages. You can add a page by simply clicking on the plus button at the bottom of your screen. Next, I like to name each slide. This just makes it a little bit easier when it comes time to link them. To rename a slide, double-click right next to the number. You should see a blinking cursor appear, which means it's ready to be named. I'm going to simply type the name of each app icon. So this first slide would be contact info. Next, I'm going to show you how to link everything on the homepage. We're going to link the homepage in 2 different stages. In stage 1, we're going to link part of the content back to slide 1. And in stage 2, we're going to link the app icons to the pages we actually want visitors to navigate to. Now, that probably sounded really confusing at first, so let me do a short demonstration. When the slide deck is in presentation mode, it automatically advances you to the next slide whenever you click anywhere. We don't want this to happen because it could be confusing to the end user. So here's how I'm going to handle that. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and select everything on my slide that's not an app icon. This is going to include the home icon, the black rectangle at the bottom, all of the pieces of my title, and the slide background. Then I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control-K, or I can right-click and select Link. Under Pages in this document, I'm going to select Slide 1. Now when I go back into Present mode, even though I'm clicking around on the slide, it's not advancing me to the next slide like it did previously. When you link something, text is automatically going to be underlined. I don't like the way this looks though, so I'm simply going to click and drag to select my text, then press Control-U to remove the underline. It's still hyperlinked. I've just removed that formatting. During stage 2, we're going to link each of these icons to the slide we want the viewer to go to. Before I do that, I'm going to right-click on the background and select Lock. This is going to make it easier to click and drag to select everything that's associated with my app icon. Remember, each icon is made up of 3 parts: the shape, the name, and the graphic. You can hold down Shift and select them individually, or you can simply click and drag to select all 3 pieces at once. When I have a graphic that has multiple components, I would typically group it, but Canva does not currently allow you to link a grouped image, which is why I'm keeping it separate. Once you have one app selected, right-click and select Link, or use the keyboard shortcut Control-K. You're then going to link that app to the appropriate slide in the deck. The reason we link all 3 elements is so no matter which part of the app icon somebody clicks on, they'll be taken to the appropriate location. You'll repeat this linking process for each of your app icons. Now you're ready to set up the additional slides in your app. Here are a few quick samples of what some pages might look like. This is a mock-up of a contact information slide, a weekly learning slide, important dates, and homework. Once you've added all your information to your slide, you're ready to start linking. We're going to be going through the 2-stage linking process again. I'm going to demo how to set up my contact information slide. Then you can repeat the process for the remaining slides. On the contact information page, I only want people to be able to navigate to another location by clicking on the home icon or one of the 5 email addresses. Everything else should act like it's part of the background. The easiest way to accomplish this is by pressing Control A to select everything on the slide. Then hold down the Shift key and click on the individual elements you want to deselect. In this case, it would be the home icon and the 5 email addresses. Press Control K and link all of this content back to the slide you're currently on. In this case, it would be slide 2, contact info. Now, just like earlier, when we link something, it's going to automatically underline all of our text. So I'm simply going to press Control U to get rid of that formatting. Now that stage 1 of linking is complete, we can move on to stage 2. This is where we're going to link all the interactive elements, starting with the home icon. Press Control K and link it back to the home page. Next, we're going to link each of our email addresses. I'm going to begin clicking on the shape that has my email and press Control K. However, instead of linking it to a slide, I'm going to type my email address in. Again, it's underlined my text, so I'm going to press Control U to remove that formatting. But because I removed that underlining, I need to do something to let people know that this is a clickable link. We have been conditioned to think of something as a link if it is underlined or that bright blue color. Since I'm not crazy about the underline, I'm going to turn this text bright blue. Now, when my app is in present mode, if I click on the email address, it's going to automatically open my email account and address the email to rsimons@murraystate.edu. All I would have to do now is repeat this process for the remaining 4 emails. I think the easiest part to get tripped up on when you're linking is trying to figure out what should link back to itself and what should link to another location. That's why I really like to use Control A to select everything, then deselect the elements that I want people to be able to interact with. There is another method some people use for linking that uses transparent rectangles. I'll quickly run through it for you in case this method makes more sense to you. For this second linking method, you would start by adding a rectangle that's the size of your entire canvas. Make sure to bring the layer to the very front. Then you'll change the color of the rectangle to be transparent with no border. Next, you'll press Control K and link it back to the slide you're currently on. This acts like a protective barrier, so no matter where somebody clicks, they can't go anywhere. Then you're going to add a transparent rectangle over every piece of content you want to be interactive. For example, when someone clicks on the home icon, I want them to be taken back to the home page. So I would place a transparent rectangle, or whatever shape you want, over the home icon. Then I would link it back to the home page. Both of these methods accomplish the exact same goal. I think it's just about using whichever method makes more sense to you. The reason I like the first option that I modeled is that it makes editing the content easier. With the second option, I would have to move all the transparent layers before I could edit anything. Once you're finished building and linking all of your content, it's incredibly important to test everything out to make sure it works the way you expect it to. So I'm going to quickly open the app in present mode and show you what the 2 slides we created would look like in action. As you can see, when I'm clicking around on the screen, my presentation isn't advancing. However, when I click on contact info, I'm taken to that slide. Again, because we linked this slide back to itself, when I click around, I don't advance. However, if I click on the home icon, I go back to the home page. Or if I were to click on an email address, it would open up a pre-addressed email like I showed you earlier. I want to remind you that you don't have to link to something within the slide deck. You could also link to things like YouTube videos, external sites, etc. Once you've finalized everything on your app, it's time to set it up to share. You'll start by clicking on the share icon in the upper right corner, then select Public View Link. This allows anyone to be able to view your design without having to have a Canva account. To get your link in the hands of your audience, you'll probably want to use a link shortener like bit.ly to turn your public view link into something that's shorter and easier to type in on your phone. You could also turn it into a QR code that adults and students could scan. Now, because we designed this app to mimic the layout of a phone, whenever you view it on the computer screen, it's going to have a significant amount of black space on either side. However, when you open it on a phone, it will take up the entire screen. You can take the app feel a step further by teaching adults and students how to save your app on their home screen. In your phone browser, you're simply going to type in the shortened link for your app. Then, if you are in Chrome, you should see a share icon in the URL bar. Click on it and select the option Add to Home Screen. Change the name if needed, then click Add. You now have a bookmark on your home screen that will open you directly to this web page. Now, I will note that you can still swipe and move between slides, but for the most part, it functions like you would intuitively expect an app to. If you're on an Android, open your link in your web browser. Then in the top right corner, select the three dots. Click Add to Home Screen, then Add, and you're ready to go. I've included a PDF version of these written directions in your course resources, as well as a Canva template in case you want to modify it to use with your own class. Once you've got the basics down, there are countless ways to personalize your class app and make it truly unique. Here are just a few fun ideas to get you started. Number one, add your Bitmoji to your app to give it a fun, personalized touch, especially great for littles. Number two, make your app more dynamic by adding animations to your elements. I wouldn't do too many though, because you don't want the app to lag when loading. Number three, use GIFs to add some humor or create custom GIFs in Canva to explain concepts. And number four, design your own icons that match your app's theme. This is such a great opportunity to get creative and make the app your own. The possibilities are truly endless. And that's a wrap on creating your class app in Canva. With this project, you are all set to streamline communication with your students and their families. I truly hope that you found this guide valuable. If you did, I would love it if you'd show your support with a like, subscribe to the Educate community for more EdTech tips and tutorials, and share this video with another teacher friend. Got questions or want to share your class app? Post your thoughts and creations in the comments below. I cannot wait to see what you've come up with. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.